This brand new and threatening tropical storm is set to become Hurricane Francine before its landfall in the Gulf Coast. Impacts are going to be dangerous far beyond that coastline, as we're going to see gusty winds push from Louisiana to the Ohio Valley. Impacts will also include heavy rainfall and the potential for tornadoes. This video has everything you need to know right here.
One Nation Weather.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to tune into this tropical update video. Keep in mind that all ad revenue on this video will be donated to storm victims after this event. No matter how many views this video gets, whether that's high or low, I will be sharing money with the storm victims, so please share this video out to anyone who you think needs it. Also, if you are watching this actively right now, use those timestamps in the description of this video to get to specific parts of the video. But I want to start off with just a general overview of what's going on here using that future radar from the European model. Already playing things out here as we go from our late Monday evening when I'm filming this into our Tuesday, September 10th of 2024 into the evening hours. You can see that we're going to likely see some organization already ongoing and continuing during this time period. We've already seen Tropical Storm Francine form within the last 24 to 36 hours of me filming this. All of a sudden, it's nearing hurricane strength, and it is expected to reach that, if not tonight, then definitely by this point into our Tuesday evening. Around this point in time, it's looking like it will be just east of that Texas-Mexico border down there around the Brownsville, Texas area. Not too far offshore, but because of its compact nature, not too many impacts other than maybe very brief tropical storm gusts and minor storm surge will graze most of the Texas shoreline. This model indicates that around Wednesday at 2 p.m. we are still seeing a strengthening Category 1 or possibly even Category 2 hurricane right off that southern Louisiana shore moving towards the central Louisiana coast. I think by this point we'll already see a hurricane making its landfall between around 2 and 8 p.m. on Wednesday. I do not think that what this model shows with a landfall around, say, 11, 12 Wednesday night going into early Thursday is the most likely scenario. Regardless of when this comes on shore, though, 2 p.m., 5 p.m., 8 p.m., 11 p.m. Wednesday, the impacts are likely going to be the same for a lot of Louisiana into southern Mississippi, parts of Alabama. We're going to be watching mainly those heavy rain and flooding concerns, the very gusty winds, especially at the landfall site, and then, of course, the increased risk for some tornadoes on that eastern front quadrant. Here we go into our Thursday. Notice this is going to continue moving inland, and it is going to do so at least pretty quickly, so a lot of Louisiana will be clearing out. Meanwhile, this weakening tropical storm will probably still be bringing that flood threat to some parts of northern Louisiana into Arkansas, Mississippi, some of those eastern bands even going as far east as parts of Alabama and Georgia. If not on Thursday, then definitely by the time we go into Friday, we will be watching some of those for at least isolated tornado potential, and really as far north as the lower Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley region. Heading out of Friday into Saturday this weekend, we could see some isolated severe weather and tornado risks, so I'll definitely be on the lookout for that. But for now, let's go ahead and get right into the first chapter of this video, which is really that pre-landfall and landfall impact timeline going from Tuesday into our Thursday. The first thing I want to show you is just that latest National Hurricane Center cone. This is the update from 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Central Time on our Monday, September 9th of 2024. You can see that as of the time of this advisory, as well as at 8 p.m. and onward when I'm filming this video, we are looking at around a 65-mile-per-hour tropical storm Francine, still due east of the northern and eastern Mexico shorelines. It is quickly expected, probably right after I film this video, to become a Category 1 hurricane. Then within hours of that, probably transitioning upwards towards that Category 2 strength, if not in the gusts, with that sustained winds, possibly even here. You can see that by the time we go towards around Wednesday, September 11th, into around the 1-2 a.m. time frame, we are looking at a 100-mile-per-hour Category 2 hurricane being projected. Gusts up into that low-end Category 3 threshold here over the open waters southeast of Texas. By the time we get to that landfall around our Wednesday late day, sometime into the late afternoon, into the evening hours, this is probably going to come onshore as a Category 2, maybe even Category 3 hurricane based on the guidance in the southwestern shores of Louisiana or into those south central shores. New Orleans, you are probably not going to take a direct landfall hit, but you will definitely see some impacts afterwards, especially with the way the models are trending. First of all, though, let's go ahead and take a look at the model intensity guidance that is being projected on Francine from tropicaltidbits.com. Notice there that I have circled so that you can see at that Category 2 peak that is probable. Really, that high-end Category 1, low to mid-grade Category 2 strength is what is most likely according to most models with this storm. Pressure probably dropping on down to around 970 millibars, which is typical of a Category 2 storm. So a Category 3 cannot be fully ruled out, but it is not the most likely scenario based on the ceiling on most of these models. By the time we go out of our Tuesday and into Wednesday, that's when that occurs, and then we see things weaken on down quickly Wednesday into Thursday. Speaking of impacts, let's go ahead and take a look at a model that gives you a look at the wind gusts visualized here. And as we come out of our Monday, September 9th into our Tuesday, September 10th, you can clearly see the storm already beginning to strengthen it up. Let me play things up so that you can really notice that difference. See some of those reds and maroonish shades around the center. Now we start to see some whites and pinks fill in right around that eastern front side into our Tuesday morning when this is due east of that Texas-Mexico border. 50, 60, 70 mile per hour winds, not uncommon for those gusts around the center. Some gusts upwards of 80, 90 miles per hour, and then by Tuesday evening, picking up upwards of 100 miles per hour right around that eye wall shading there that you can see on screen. Use the key at the bottom so that you can know what these numbers are, even if it doesn't show an exact value on the screen. As we go out of Tuesday and into our Wednesday, I think the intensity of the storm is going to continue ramping up, if not at least flattening out around that high-end Cat 1 into Cat 2 strength. By around Wednesday at 5 a.m., this model really picks us up towards the Louisiana shore. Some 40 mile per hour gusts already on shore there, and in far southeastern Texas, 100 to 120 mile per hour gusts, not too far offshore, just 100 plus miles, not much more than that. By the time we go out of Wednesday around 5 a.m. towards 8, 11 a.m., and then towards 2 p.m., that is when this landfall is likely going to become more imminent. I do think 2 p.m. is when this model is showing, yep, there it is, that landfall. Remember, I showed you a model earlier that showed around 8 to 11 p.m. for landfall at the earliest. So again, there is kind of a broad window, but somewhere here into the afternoon hours, we're going to be seeing these 60, 70, 80 plus mile per hour wind gusts pushing on shore. This could be in some areas near Lafayette and New Iberia for that landfall. That's just a rough estimate zone. It could be in some cities near that location or some parishes near that location. If you live in any of these affected areas, you see greens, yellows, oranges, reds, or you're near those areas on the screen right now, please check your weather.gov forecast or nhc.noaa.gov for the latest weather alerts for your exact zip code. Here we go through our Wednesday evening at some point, whether it's at 8 p.m. like this model shows or later after 11 p.m. like that earlier model that I showed you shows. Some gusts, 50 plus mile per hour wind gusts, will probably impact New Orleans with some consistent tropical storm conditions. Sustained winds could be upwards of 30 miles per hour there, and even a bit further inland into some parts of Mississippi. So be on the lookout for that. Also, what you need to be on the lookout for is that saltwater inundation above normal levels here. Along the Texas shores, we're at least looking at a couple of feet of storm surge in many areas that could include Galveston Bay. Then we see a transition zone, and then we get over from Cameron to Vermilion Bay over to around the Port Fortune area. Please correct me if I'm saying these incorrectly. Any of those areas you see in red in Louisiana, we're looking at 5 to 10 feet of projected storm surge, maybe more. Over to New Orleans, at least around 4 feet of storm surge in many cases, so please be ready for that. Over into some areas of Alabama and the western Florida Panhandle, we could also see some surge. In addition to the surge, we're also going to be watching the freshwater flooding, and we've also got one more impact to talk about in the landfall locations after this. Starting with the rainfall, though, from the Weather Prediction Center, this graphic indicating that just from late Tuesday heading into most of Wednesday and then Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, we're going to be watching most of Louisiana and most of southern and central Mississippi get inundated with rainfall, 3 to 6 inches in a widespread fashion, even into some parts of southwestern Alabama, and there will be some locally high totals there depending on this track, which could shift just a little bit. If you're in any of those red areas, you need to be prepared for those locally high totals that could be upwards of around 12 inches of rain. In addition to that, we've also got a tornado threat, as if everything else isn't enough. A concentrated area of strong jet stream rotation around Hurricane Francine could generate a Wednesday and Wednesday night regional tornado event in Louisiana and into Mississippi. The bands within close proximity to the right front eye wall quadrant will have the best chance for spin-up tornadoes, with threats decreasing quickly with outward extent. You are looking at a level 4 of 7 at the high end there on my ONW severe scale that you see there in the New Orleans area, the Lake Pontchartrain area into Biloxi, Mississippi. The dark greens and yellow sheets indicate a level 2 to level 3 threat for severe weather in the surrounding spots, and that severe weather threat is mainly driven by tornadoes, so be prepared for that threat Wednesday going into Wednesday night. Now let's go ahead and talk about the post-landfall impact information going from really Thursday mid-morning all the way into the upcoming weekend, and that starts out just with our rain totals. I want to show you day by day where the 24-hour precipitation increments are expected to be according to the Weather Prediction Center, a National Weather Service agency. You can see as we go out of our Thursday into our early Friday, look at where this heaviest rain is expected to pick on up. Very heavy downpours near that center of circulation into some parts of Arkansas, southeastern Missouri, into parts of far western Tennessee, into some areas of northern Mississippi. That's where that heaviest rain and flood threat's going to be. But just east of that, that is where we could see that tornado threat get focused the most, even as far south as into parts of southwest Georgia and the Florida Panhandle, where we have a little bit lower of a flood threat. The tornado threat could be even a little bit higher in some of those southern and eastern side bands of the storm. So please be prepared for that in those locations. I know I keep saying please be prepared, but when there is a situation like this, you do need to be on higher weather alert. Going from Friday into our Saturday morning, the overall rainfall rates do decrease a bit, but into parts of Missouri, Illinois, into Indiana, and Kentucky, where you see those heavier rain bands, we'll probably be watching some flooding. Even into Tennessee, Georgia, over into the Carolinas, some flooding. And then, of course, you know that there will be some isolated tornadoes embedded in some of these bands. The exact locations of those remain unknown right now, but I'm sure as soon as I get more information, I will let you know on exactly where those threats are going to be. I will show you graphics in just a moment on where I think they're going to be by this weekend, though. Heading out of Saturday into Sunday, notice more rain continues over some parts of the Ohio Valley and Southeast. Threats will go down from flooding and severe weather with time, though, as this continues to diminish over these locations. Here's that tornado threat. I wanted to show it to you here. Here reminds of severe zones graphics, which give you a look at where I would put certain levels on my ONW severe scale. Basically, if you see yourself in a dark green, this is where I have higher confidence in some level of severe threat Thursday and Thursday night. In the yellow, that's where I think the highest threat for severe weather is going to be during that time. Severe threats could also be elsewhere, so please be prepared anywhere from Mississippi and Alabama into surrounding spots. By the time we go into our Friday, the low-level jet stream energy is going to begin to wane a little bit, but continue to push towards the northeast to some parts of the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and into the southeast. From Illinois over to South Carolina, you've got some level of threat expected into Friday for isolated tornadoes. You need to be mindful of that. By the time we go into our Saturday, a lot of the exact same areas, continuing with a lower end threat that will continue to probably weaken day by day, but is not zero with this storm still circling around, weakening down. The center of circulation is going to be probably in southern Illinois around this time, and that is why that southeast side continues to see that isolated severe risk. One other thing I do want to talk about with this storm before I just give a brief overview of weather across the entire country, those are the wind gusts moving inland by the time we go into our Thursday, September 12th around 6 p.m. Notice the impacts moving from parts of Louisiana and southern Mississippi, all the way up here into Arkansas, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, and southwestern Tennessee. Don't say I didn't warn you to tie down loose objects, make sure any outdoor furniture is secured, those kinds of things. You don't want things that should not be harmful to be harmful in a situation like this with 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts. If you have that kind of equipment outside, make sure you're either moving it indoors, securing it, tying it down, whatever you need to do. By the time we go out of Thursday into Friday, I can tell you, unless you are in a heavier thunderstorm associated with this system, the wind gusts are probably going to begin dying down towards more of that 25 to 30 mile per hour threshold across a lot of the Ohio Valley, Midwest, and Southeast. This is nothing that most infrastructure, most objects can handle outside. Trees can handle that kind of wind in most cases unless they're very dead. Heading out of Friday into Saturday and Sunday, winds continue to die down from that storm. And that leads me into the final discussion of this video, which is unrelated to Francine, and it is just with the ridging that's going to be taking over a lot of the northern United States. Here we go. I've been playing the reds, and I'm going to continue to be playing the reds across the northern United States for those temperature anomalies. This European model and other models as well indicating that 10, 15, 20 degree above average temperatures are going to pair with high pressure across areas like Montana, parts of Colorado and Wyoming, and then as far east as Wisconsin and Michigan through the rest of this week. This is going to make for temperatures into at least the 80s and 90s across a lot of these zones, unless, of course, you're the further west and into the northwestern United States, where we are going to be a little bit cooler just because of elevation, and then even more cool as you move on over there towards places like Washington State and Oregon, where temperatures are actually going to be below average all week long and into this upcoming weekend. Temperatures well above normal. It is going to be insane across this region, and it will continue for quite a while. If you want to stay with me for quite a while and get more consistent, accurate, and educational updates in the future, please hit that subscribe button down below. More importantly, though, make sure you are sharing this video with family and friends if they live in any inland or coastal area affected by Tropical Storm Francine, Hurricane Francine, whatever you want to call her. This is a dangerous storm, and I am praying for you guys who are going to be affected. Everybody have a great rest of your day and stay safe out there.
One nation weather.